Perfect, Hannah, that's good news. Okay, perfect. So, hi everybody, welcome. So the guys of you that are in the session, you can hear me, and thank you so much for using our little chat box there. If at any point during the next hour you can't hear me or I drop out at all, just type in here and we'll get that sorted. Okay. So welcome everybody, and yeah, let's get started. So just a little bit of housekeeping. You've all done it already, but to communicate with myself and with the lovely Hannah, she'll be moderating our chat box today. Um, could you just make sure you chat away with us? We're here to help. So if I do miss anything, Hannah is keeping a lovely eye on that. So feel free to ask away as the session goes on. If you wanted to tweet us at all and use social media, feel free to use our handle DC_Wales, or my one is Laura P DCW. Okay. So can you all see the housekeeping screen that we're looking at now? Is it updating on the slides? Yes, perfect. Okay, okay. So all we ask of you guys today is to watch the videos that we've got in our little presentation and to participate using the chat box, like I said, as and when you need to. So what we're here for today is we're just going to have a little bit of a sneaky look into digital volunteering and being digital champions, really. So, like I've said, my name's Laura Phillips. We've got Hannah here if you need anything at all. And yeah, so digital volunteering and digital champions basically is what we're going to be having a really quick look into this afternoon. So what are our aims for the day? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to learn some tips to help get somebody online. We're going to learn some top tips for volunteers. We're also going to have a quick look into how to stay safe online and passing that on to our end users. And what we're also going to have a little look at as well is our role as volunteers and the boundaries that come with that, and just how we can learn to get a little bit more information and support, really. So my understanding is that you're all staff members at the moment and you're going to be taking a leap into volunteering in local libraries, I believe. Lovely, perfect. So a lot of the stuff that we're going to go over today, I will mention, I'll be referring to you guys as volunteers, but I will be looking at sort of how we can integrate what you do as staff into being volunteers all at the same time as well. So to get us started off and to get our sort of thinking caps on, what I want you guys to think about is before we start supporting people to get online, we've got to think of the barriers that they may face as brand and new end users on the web, really. So thinking of the kind of people that you guys are going to be supporting in local libraries and drop-in centres and things like that. What do you think their barriers will be to getting online and getting digital? Feel free to put your answers in our little chat box. It's a discussion for you guys to be involved as well. Perfect. Technophobia, yeah. No access to hardware. Perfect. And that's a really key one, is not having access to the technology or to have an internet connection and that sort of thing. Fear of the unknown, absolutely, yeah. If you don't know it or you've heard horror stories, that's definitely going to be a barrier that our new users are going to be facing. Definitely. Any more that anyone can think of? It doesn't just have to be one answer each. You can have more than one answer. But these are really, really good ones so far. Not interested. Absolutely, yeah. Disabilities, absolutely. Jargons, yeah, that's a really, really good one. Absolutely, because we're all so used to being online and being digital. We're using words like just Google it. And that sounds like gibberish to somebody that doesn't understand it. So that's a really, really good one. And that's a key thing that we're going to have a little look at later, is some of the languages that we use. In that sort of, it's easy for us to say, just hop online and go on to an internet browser and look for that information. And that could take us a couple of seconds. But for somebody who's never used the internet before or never used digital tools, that's a whole different world, really. So that's really, really good. And I think that you've all sort of mentioned a lot of the points that I wanted to raise as well, with lack of connectivity, lack of skills and confidence, fearing the internet is a massive one, and not seeing what the relevance is to them. So not seeing what the point is. That can also be a barrier that we as volunteers need to help people around, really. So this is just a little mind map that we've developed with regards to the barriers to getting people online and get them digitally included. And as you can see here, quite a lot of the stuff that you guys have mentioned has been mentioned in this as well. So the fear, mistrust, misunderstanding. Kath, you've said technophobe there. That's exactly what we've said as well. So that is a really, really common barrier. A lot of people are sort of happy doing things the old-fashioned way, but digital by default is here. The internet isn't going anywhere. It's not just a passing fad, and it's our jobs really as volunteers to get people interested on getting online and getting them to use these tools and these skills in the best way that's going to benefit them, really. Low income, the startup costs and the costs of broadband and tech and all that sort of thing, that can be a barrier for some people. I mean, we've got the benefit of having the opportunity to refer people to libraries and drop-in centres, and being able to get them kit that way, so they can continue to use their online skills maybe on a weekly basis or however often they want to go to the library and that sort of thing. There's a language section in this as well. And that's the little bit that I wanted to mention with jargon and things like that. We can all think of explaining the way to get onto the internet, and we think we're being really, really clear. But somebody that's never clicked on to even an internet icon, they may really struggle if we say just go online and have a little look on Google or go onto YouTube and find out how to solve this problem. So it's definitely a matter of thinking that the language that you use, and not even the words you use, the body language that you use, is absolutely key, because what we're doing is we're teaching these people this brand new thing, and it can be scary. So if we can make it as easy and as simple to follow as we can, that's only going to benefit everybody, really. um, to get around a lot of these barriers, especially with things, emotional things like being frightened to get online, or a lack of interest and things like that. We can get around those by doing fun things online. So finding out about people's interests and what they like doing and incorporating that into your volunteer sessions. So they might be a fan of rugby, or they might really love golf. You can find really great websites or YouTube videos that you can show them to get them exactly knitting, Kath. Yeah, you can get them involved with the internet with those things that they really love doing. It makes your life easier because it means you're not just filling out forms online or universal credits and things like that. It means that you're doing nice things with them as well, and that'll help things stick in a little bit better. With your knitting thing, Kath, I actually have very recently taught myself how to do cross stitch, by watching YouTube videos. So that's something that I'm doing that I enjoy doing, and it just means that I'm getting the most out of the internet, really. So, can anybody else think of any other ways that we can get around these barriers? So making things fun, offering up things like drop-in sessions at libraries and stuff like that. Any other ideas? Oh, got a couple of you typing away. Yeah, exactly. And I think that you're absolutely right with TV campaigns at the moment with getting people online. Um, and and absolutely if the sort of rest of the media get involved as well, it's definitely going to help to get people using multimedia really. Absolutely, that's really good. So what we're going to do now is have a little look at what we can expect as a volunteer. So hopefully you should have policies and set procedures in place at the moment for volunteers. And these are going to differ slightly from your sort of policies as a staff member. So something to mention as a volunteer is the social media policies. So at the moment, do you guys have social media policies as staff members? And do they differ at all with your policies as for volunteers, as it were? Fantastic, yeah. So we've got no access from social media from corporate internet, yeah. That's a big one. That tends to be for corporate organisations. They tend to have those rules as well. Um, as far as social media, when you are a volunteer, has that been discussed at all with sort of the sort of lines that you have with regards to your end users? Because ultimately as a volunteer you're going to have a really good relationship with your end users, and that relationship, it can develop into a personal relationship with somebody. Let's have a look here. Oh, there we go, perfect. So the digital champion guidelines, which are going to be sent out, is really going to help you guys to understand where you stand as a volunteer, because I think that's really important, is knowing your place when it comes to helping members of the public really. It keeps you safe because it means you've got um, policies in place to protect you as a person, and it also means that you can make sure that your end users know that as well, so that's really good. Brilliant. I'm glad you've got something that's going out to everybody. That's wonderful. The other thing that you can expect as a volunteer as well is you'll need to really work on your signposting skills. And what I mean by that is knowing how to read a situation with regards to the end users. So, for example, if you think that they might need more support in a specific area, then you'll know whether you can escalate that to somebody else within the organisation or pass it on to maybe somebody at the library. Maybe they're running a 6-week course or something like that. With signposting as well, it's really important that you understand your escalation process as a volunteer as well. Um, Another key rule that we tend to tell volunteers is don't let end users use your own personal equipment. So your own mobile phone or your own laptop or tablet, whatever you've got. So the reason for this is because it's your own stuff, and if that gets broken or stolen, or end users find something out about you that you don't want them to, you're putting yourself out there and you're overstepping that line. So it's really important that you keep your personal equipment personal really. So perfect, Kath. It's really good that you've got ongoing support for your volunteers as well, and that's something that I was going to mention a little bit later on. Is as volunteers, you're all there to support each other, and that's really important as well. Yep, Hannah, you're absolutely right. So your personal property is yours, and it's important to you. So never feel that you need to show or share your personal equipment. So absolutely, I don't give my phone to anybody to use in physical training sessions, and it should be the same for you guys as well. So yeah, what we're going to have a little look at now is we're just going to watch a really quick video on one of the volunteers that came through Digital Communities Wales. and just her story really. So I'm just going to play this video. If you can't hear it at all, type in and I'll pause and we'll start again, okay?
I've taught in libraries, job centres and sheltered housing complexes. My role is to help people who are digitally excluded, who's never touched a computer in their life, to reap the benefits of being online. The first step is explaining how to use the mouse and the keyboard and then how to access the internet. And it's just step by step, and we go at their pace instead of the pace we expect them to learn. Before I started volunteering, I had really low self-esteem, and if anybody told me 2 years ago that I'd be teaching 5 or 6 people, I think they was having a laugh. It's definitely worth it to see the smiles on people's faces when they come out today, knowing that they've learned something new. Now I love it, and I do it every day if I could.
So did you all manage to hear that? Okay, do you want me to replay it for you guys? If not, the videos and all of the resources will be sent out to you at the end of the day anyway, so you feel free to have a little watch when we get off the webinar here, if that's okay. Yeah, absolutely, Kath. We'll definitely share it with you. That's the joy of volunteering, is that we're all sharing our information, definitely. So that was just a little video on one of the volunteers that came to us, and she's helping people to get online, and even, like she was saying, it's from the basics of using using a mouse to typing, right the way through to helping them with universal credit forms or job applications. And she mentioned in the video that she'd do it every day if she could, and it's really helped with things like her self-esteem, and it feels like she's really giving back to the community. So I think that's key really, and it's not only helping your end users, it's not just a really good impact for your end users, it's really great for you as volunteers as well. I mean, who doesn't like to feel good about themselves? So yeah, well done all of you. But yeah, what we're going to have a little look at now is just a couple of tips that we've come up with to really help you get the most out of your volunteering and things like that. So the first tip that we've got, it might be really obvious, but make it fun. So whatever interests or hobbies or passions your clients or your end users have, there will be something on the internet for you to look at with them. So whether that's full websites or it's forums or it's YouTube channels, there'll be something online that reflects that interest. Like I mentioned a moment ago, I really love doing cross stitch now, and I find myself just spending time through the day just watching cross stitch videos just to improve it and things like that. So whatever interests you have, as people that use the internet on a regular basis, it's going to be exactly the same for your end users. They just might not know that these things exist online. So they might not know that they can go onto the internet and review movies and watch trailers for things and do things that they really love doing. So it's key that you get to know the people that you're going to be working with. And really finding something that they love doing or love looking at. So it could be a sport or a hobby, because if we find a hook for them, so if we find something to get them wanting to be online for, they're going to engage with it more and they're going to learn much better, and it's going to sink in much better as well. So a good example that we've had of this before is when you're teaching somebody to use a web page, for example. If somebody's really interested in sports, you could take them onto the BBC Sport website. And that way, not only are you teaching them core digital skills by using the mouse and using the keyboard, but you're also doing something that they really love doing. So it's going to benefit both ways, really. So yeah, people as well won't feel forced if they're doing something that they like doing as well. So for example, if an end user comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm really struggling to do something on the internet," you can maybe look at a few fun things first and then help them with the application form that they need to do, or the universal credit application, or whatever it is really. So they'll be more receptive and they'll just learn in a much deeper way really. So our next tip is encourage the learner to use the technology that we've got available. So whether that's a tablet or a laptop or a desktop PC, or it could be their own mobile phone, encourage them to use it while they're with you, okay? The simple reason for that is because you learn much better by play. So what we tend to do, and we'll do this in training as well, we'll say to people, fill in this registration form. We won't do that for them because we need to be able to not only assess where they stand at the moment, but it all sinks in much better if you start doing it yourselves. Another thing as well is you're not a PA for your end users, and if you, when they come in to download photos or reply to emails and things like that, and you just do it for them because you know it's a little bit quicker, then what they'll do is they'll become so used to that every time they come in, they'll say, oh, well, you just do that for me, because that's what you've been doing in the past as well. For longevity's sake, it's really important to get them using that tech as well, for not only for their sake, but for if you're not available. So if you're not there maybe 1 week, they'll come in and say, oh, well, so downloaded this photo for me before, or replied to an email and things like that. It's it's not going to benefit them in the long run really. I bet you've all heard this before. I know I have, and I know Hannah definitely has as well, is some excuses that we get from end users or people that we train. It's I'll break it, or you're much better at this than I am, or you can do it much quicker than I am. I'm slowing everybody down. And what if I make a mistake? And they're all valid reasons, but we need to teach people essentially how to use their own tech. I'm too old for all of this. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not that they'll break it. The internet's been around for 20, 30 years, and as of yet, I've not heard anybody that's managed to break it. As for you're much better or much quicker at this than I am, that very well may be the case, but the only reason that we're better and we're quicker is because we've had chance to practice and we've learned all of this. So if we don't give our end users that same benefit, then they're never going to get quicker and they're never going to get better. What if I make a mistake? I wouldn't worry about that. Everybody makes mistakes online. I mean, I make mistakes on the internet all of the time, but it's never life-threatening. And the stuff that you're teaching your clients to do is going to be very basic stuff anyway. So if they don't get it the first time they come and see you, when they come back again, you can think of a different way to explain it to them if they're not quite getting it as quickly as you wanted them to. The key thing is, though, with people is that learning new things, and especially learning new digital things, can be really frustrating, and it can be uncomfortable for both you and for them if they're really struggling with it, or they are getting frustrated and they don't want to keep doing it. The key thing is with your end users is do things at their pace. So if you find that it's not happening as well as you're explaining it to them, refresh. So take a breath and just think, right, okay, how can I explain this in a slightly different way? Or what activity can we do that's really going to help us get to the bottom of what they need to achieve? So yeah, getting them to engage in the tech is absolutely key. And even if you've got to sit on your hands rather than do things for them just while you're getting started, it is really difficult to not sort of take a laptop off someone and go, oh, just let me do it. I'll sort it out for you. It's not going to benefit them, and it's certainly not going to benefit you. So yeah, just have them play with it really. Our next bit then, which leads on very nicely from letting them do things, is having patience. I mentioned it earlier, what can take us a minute to do now, so downloading images or sending an email, it might take new learners quite a while to do it, and that's absolutely fine, because when we were learning to do things, we didn't just pick it up and know automatically how to do the thing. So so just keep that in mind. It's like when you learn to drive a car. And I don't know if anybody else does this, but when I was learning to drive, felt like it took me so long to get to grips with it all. And now I drive, and it's second nature. I don't think about what I'm doing; it happens. And that's very, very similar with technology as well. It's daunting and it's scary when you get started, but once you start using it, you do things with muscle memory and you don't think about what you're doing. So it's just a matter of having that patience, that calm, and that reassuring nature and attitude about yourselves. Because if you're sitting there with all the patience in the world, but you're not reassuring someone, they're going to start to think, oh, am I doing this right? Whereas if you're constantly reassuring and being, patient with them, they'll pick it up. They will. And then the other section in here is what I've mentioned. Resist the urge to do it for people yourself because it's quicker. Speed is great, but speed doesn't help us learn anything. So definitely get them to do it at their own pace. And repetition is absolutely key. If you can get your clients and your end users to repeat a process a couple of times without meaning to, it'll click, and you'll find that they're soaring before you even know it. So repetition is really, really important. I just want to show you a really quick image of this is a little screen grab that I've taken this morning of YouTube. And what I want you to do is just have a really quick look at this screen, and tell me how many buttons on that screen can you click onto that will take you onto a different page. Oh, you've lost sound. Right, okay. Can the rest of you hear me okay, or is it just Stuart? I'm back. Hooray! Perfect. Only lost you for a second there, Stuart. So what I want you to do is have a little look on this YouTube page, and tell me how many options you can click onto that will take you onto a further page within the internet. So what is a clickable link? Feel free to type it into the little chat box at the bottom. So Stuart, we think it's less than 20. Lovely. No counting as well, guys. No cheating. You think it's, oh, sorry, you think it's more than 20. Fab. Okay. Any other guesses? 50. Lovely. Any more for any more? Any higher or lower than 50? Okay, so we've actually Stuart was the closest. What we've got here is we've got more than 25 buttons that you can click onto to get onto a different screen. Okay, I mean, has everybody used YouTube before? Are you all familiar with the concept of YouTube and how it works? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, yeah, lovely. I bet you know more than you think, Stuart. So basically, with YouTube, you all know that all you've got to do is type in the little into the little search box at the top what you want to look at, click the little search button, and up it brings our results. But what we need to do is look at this screen as if we were a brand new person who's just seeing it for the first time, because all of the buttons that we can click on to, we've got loads of stuff on the left hand side that I don't really use as a digital native, and I'm not sure if you guys use it at all. Literally all I do on YouTube when I need to look at something is I'll search for it, click the little search button, and there we are. But for somebody who's brand new using the internet, they're going to be keen on finding out what all of those little buttons do, and why they do it and where that takes us. And that's because they're wanting to learn about it. So that's a key thing to consider. Is there's so many different options where we're really spoiled for choice at this point in time. But what you need to do is you need to make sure not only do you need to have patience with your learners, and you need to make sure that you're doing things in that make sense to them. We need to let them lead the learning. So we need to say to them, right, okay, what do you want to look at on this screen? Um, and and that kind of thing. And that takes us absolutely beautifully onto our next slide, which is it's okay not to know. Because even if you're not overly familiar with YouTube, and your kids might know more than you do, it's okay to admit that you don't know something. And that's really key as well. So for example, I'm just going to flick back to our YouTube page. On that little left hand side, there's stuff on there that I have no idea what it does. But if I was with a learner and they said to me, oh, what does the YouTube movies section do? I'd say to them, let's find out together. Let's have a little look and find out what is going on, what is going on there really. So it's okay not to know, and it's really okay to find out the answer. With this, Google is absolutely your best friend, or Bing, other search engines are available. But it is really important that you don't sort of just think, oh, I'll give them an answer and hope that's the right thing to say. Find out together, because you're both learning. It's a two-way street really. So I know I'd much rather find out the right information. Even if I'm 90% sure, I'd always much rather double check than give somebody the wrong information. So with using Google and things like that, peer-to-peer learning, absolutely, Hannah, yeah. With using Google and search engines to find out information, it is really important that you consider and you pass on critical thinking skills, because there are websites out there that are telling you information just to sell you something, and things like that. So it's really important that you consider the sources of that information, and you look for the best quality information that you can. Peer-to-peer learning as well, like Hannah said, that's really key for making sure information sticks in your brain. Because if you find out information and then you teach somebody else that thing that you've just learned, you're not going to forget it quickly, because you've processed it in such a way that you're going to have to explain it to somebody else in a slightly different way. So you can't possibly know everything. Me and Hannah don't know everything, as much as we like to pretend that we do. But yeah, it's okay to admit it really. So what we've got on here, this is just a good example of how Google can help us, and it can be our best friend. So what we've got on Google, all I've typed in here is how to make pancakes, and then I've clicked search. And together what you can do is you can look at the ingredients that we've got here. There's loads of BBC Good Food recipes. And what's really nice about the way that Google works is that we've got these little tabs across the top. And what you can do is you can watch videos on how to make a pancake, or look at photos, or go shopping for pancake ingredients and all that sort of thing. So the little tabs across the top there are really handy for different learning styles, and people with different accessibility issues perhaps. So if you've got somebody that's dyslexic, maybe reading a recipe isn't going to work for them. But watching a video on how to make pancakes is a really positive way of getting them to use their online skills. Lovely. Our last tip is signposting, and this is one of the trickier things that skills to gain, and it's simply because, and I don't know if any of you are like me, but I really love sort of watching people's journeys. But what we need to make sure is that we're moving our end users along. So once you've helped them, and you've got them to do what they wanted to do, if they're coming back every week for a year to do that same thing over and over again, maybe it's time for you to refer them to a more structured training course, maybe that they can go to in the evenings, or get them more specific information from someone else. So that's really key, because again, like I've said, we don't know everything, and if somebody's looking for something much more specific, and we're not the best person for it. We do have, there are people out there that are much better at maybe explaining how to do things much better than we are, because our skills lie in one area and not all of them. Useful links that Kath has. Oh, you're so good, Kath. So that'll help with that, just how to pass people on to sort of official training methods maybe. So identifying and knowing what agencies in the area can help with this, and that's exactly what Kath is saying with having useful, a useful links, even if it's on a Word document somewhere that you can refer somebody to. So yeah, that's signposting is one of the more difficult ones, but it's there to help you and to help your clients, because if you've got the same person coming back to you every week or twice a week to do the same thing, that means that you're not able to help another individual who needs you for help. So keep that in mind when you have got sort of your regulars, as it were. One thing that I know was brought up for us to discuss today as well is a little bit of online safety stuff. And I am cautious of the time, because I know some of you might have to leave at 1, so I will try and get us finished before then. But basically, online safety is an essential part of using the internet. For many people just starting out the net, it's their main priority, and that's exactly how it should be. I heard a really lovely example of this from a conference that I went to a couple of weeks ago, and there was a speaker there who's a hacker by choice. So he set up a company where they find holes in people's firewalls and things like that. But he basically said the best way to stay safe online is like teaching a child to cross the road. You wouldn't just tell them to run across and hope for the best. You'd stand and you'd teach them how to cross the road safely. So that's really, really important, because if we teach people to get safe and be safe online right from the get-go, it just means that that's in there forever then, instead of just going in and hoping for the best and then saying, oh, there's a much safer way that you can do this, or there's an easier way or a better way to do it. So best practice is always really important when it comes to online safety. Some things to consider when staying safe online is obviously having up-to-date virus protection, whether that's for links or pop-ups or downloads and things like that. Using common and secure sites, so having that little HTTPS right at the start of your web address, or even having the little lock icon on any websites that you're on. If that's highlighted in green, it means that you're on a secure website, and that the information is safe on there. Checking web addresses, so things like .gov.uk, .com web addresses. Think of the reasons why these websites exist, and again, that comes back to our critical thinking. So I go onto a website that's we sell onions.com, and there's a link to an article about how onions can cure a common cold. You've got to think of the reasons why they've put that article up there. It's because they're selling onions, and so just be mindful and be critical of the web addresses that you're using. Trusting your instincts is really, really important. Be cautious, don't send money, don't overshare. Just basically, if you wouldn't shout out in the middle of a street, don't put it on the internet. As for trusting instincts, that's something that does sometimes need to be taught to end users. So that's just another thing that you can pass on to the people that you are going to be supporting when you're volunteering. Okay. Checking website credentials, whether they've got registered pharmacy logos, or they've got the NHS logo, or government logos or icons and things like that is really, really important. So checking the credentials, again, like Hannah said here, .co.uk or .com is commercial. You can buy those web addresses, and they're normally trying to sort of sell you something or push something onto you, an agenda maybe. So some do's and don'ts, just to sort of finish us off. With the do's, we do want to signpost people. So whether that's to other organisations or other people that can help, we do want to demonstrate to people. So that's demonstrating how to use things, demonstrating best practice. We're there as a supporting capacity, okay? So you're there to help people, not to, as we'll come over in a minute, not to do things for them. Encouragement. So we are going to want to encourage our clients as well. And we do want to ask for help and support. So if something's concerning you about something that you've seen online or the actions of one of your end users, do escalate that and do ask for help from either your fellow volunteers or from a support network that you might have within your volunteering scheme. Maintain appropriate boundaries as well. That's a key one. That's one of the first things we mentioned earlier on. So under the don't section, we've got don't do it for the client. And that's the key thing I mentioned about helping them. So it's a struggle, but you're helping them to help themselves. Don't give them personal information. Obviously, unless it's, within your policies and procedures and things like that. Don't give them any personal information that they might be able to find you with in the future. Don't keep worries to yourself, so don't bottle it up. If something is worrying you or bothering you after a session that you've had with a client, then don't keep that to yourself. Again, use that support network that you're going to have and take advantage of it. And the last don't is give out professional advice. And what I mean by professional advice is things like don't give recommendations for specific antivirus softwares unless you're qualified to give that information out. So all we're there to say to people is it's a good idea to get antivirus software, but don't say to them, definitely get McAfee, because I use that. Because if something were to go wrong, they got a virus or something happened, they're going to blame you ultimately. So try and avoid giving specific professional advice. Obviously, unless you're trained or you're qualified to give that information out. So things like job seeking advice and things like that. So real world example of keeping you and your clients' information and your clients safe comes when considering helping someone to set up an email account. So I've just got a little screen grab here of setting up a Gmail account. And what we've got here is you've got the choose your username section here. And that's really important to consider for a number of reasons. Number one is it's going to be something that they'll remember. And number two is make sure that they know that that email account can be seen by people that they get in touch with online. So make sure they keep it clean for things like if they're applying for jobs and stuff, they don't want to have an email account that's got some profanities in, for example. The next point down that I want to raise on here is creating a password and confirming your password, which are these two fields here. The important thing about this is don't watch them type their password in. Don't ask them what their password is, because what that does is it puts you in a position where you know personal information about that person's account. And if something were to go wrong, that person will say, oh, well, Kath knew about my password, so that could be where it's coming from. So again, we're there for supporting. We're not setting this account up for them. We're getting them to do the work by typing their details in and all of that sort of thing. So yeah, it's just a matter of using appropriate and safe usernames and passwords and making sure that you don't know too much. It's like saying it's the age-old thing of you wouldn't give somebody your PIN number and say, can you just go and grab me some money from the cash point? It's the same here. So you wouldn't ask somebody for their PIN number, so don't ask them for their password as well. Okay. So always keep learning. As a volunteer, you're going to need to be sort of on the button with your clients. And just as an example for that, this is two screenshots from the Welsh Water website. So the screenshot on the left here, this is from this day in 2007. So this website is now 10 years out of date. And option on the right is what the Welsh Water website looks like today. Okay, so it's really important that we understand and we how quickly things are changing digitally. Because we've been using digital for so long now. When updates come out, it doesn't frighten us. I mean, it might move things around and it might look slightly different, but the content is still ultimately going to be the same. But for our end users, if they're brand new to using tech and all of a sudden something moves on a website, that's going to really worry them. So it's just a matter of keeping in mind that things do change really, really quickly in technology and with digital. And it's okay to sort of keep an eye on it and make sure you know what's going on. Keep learning and keep exploring. That way you can give the best that you can to your end users, really. So that's our last little bit of advice, really. So what we've done to sum up is we've gotten to know our clients and our end users, their barriers, their hobbies, their likes, their dislikes. What we're going to do as well is we're going to make it fun, because otherwise, what's the point? We're here to do, we're here to volunteer and to do a job. But if we can make that as easy and as fun as we can, then the better it is for everybody, really. And we've also found out and we know our role as a volunteer. Okay. So just a last little bit that I wanted to mention is being a digital champion or a digital volunteer. It's not all about being at the core of the innovation of technology and being an amazing coder or knowing all of this information. It's about the people that you're helping, and it's about your clients, because without them, we've got nobody to show digital to. So yeah, just keep those at the forefront of everything that you do as a volunteer, because they're our core, really. And yeah, that is absolutely it from me and Hannah today. So thank you so much for listening and taking part in our little webinar today. I know we've gone through it all really quickly and we've only sort of scratched the surface really on being a digital volunteer and a digital champion. But we'd always really, really love your feedback. What I'll do is I'll be sending you out a little evaluation form. If you could spare a minute and just fill that out, that would be really, really great. But if there is anything else